Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike. Thanks for tuning in. When you think of Florida, battlefields don't often come to mind. One may think of Universal or Disney or even Space Center or idiots doing stupid stuff. You might be surprised to find out that there are literally dozens and dozens of battlefields that dot the state, going back to even the Spanish period. But those will be subjects for future videos. But today we're going to be paying a visit to a very small but very significant battlefield, just about an hour or so west of Orlando. And I want to invite you along for the ride. So hold on and sit tight. Welcome to the Dade Battlefield. This little area may not seem like much, but in December of 1835, a very small but key battle took place on this particular ground. And everything apart from the visitor center is about as close to the way things were at the time of the battle that took place here. December 28th, 1835, a detachment of 108 U.S. infantrymen and one cannon were en route from Fort Brooke, near present-day Tampa. They were marching north to reinforce Fort King, up near where modern-day Ocala is. Led by Major Francis L. Dade. They essentially marched through this area unaware of 180 Seminole warriors that lay in ambush. And this trail is the remnants of the old Fort King Highway that connected the two. And actually, this is an event that probably one of the most famous of all the Seminole chiefs had a hand in, being Chief Osceola. Although, if I remember correctly, he was not here on the day of, but he was instrumental in planning the ambush and other events surrounding the battle that occurred here. But he was elsewhere at that time. And this event really kind of came about as a result of a lot of increasing tensions between the Seminole Nation and the rising population of American settlers that were coming into this area. Andrew Jackson's administration, who had essentially forcibly relocated all tribes to west of the Mississippi. Of course, there were always going to be a few that refused to go along with it. And it was just really a chain of events that led to what happened here. But everybody in the column was wearing their heavy winter coats and everything tucked away. And over in that direction is approximately where the Seminole warriors waited in ambush. And approximately, it was right about here when the Seminoles fired their first volley. And with it, Major Dade, 2 of his officers, fell. And what followed here after were several hours of sustained fire being exchanged from both sides. And this little pillar here marks a spot where Major Dade was killed that morning. And these other 2 markers along the path are where some of his other officers lost their lives. And eventually they were able to get their cannon up and running. And eventually we're able to drive off the attacking warriors, who then fell back into the brush off in that direction, where they regrouped. And that time, by that point, about half of Dade's column had essentially been wiped out. And the survivors fell back, dragging their cannon with them, dragging their wounded, and very quickly set up this very rough defensive work, although in reality this is more of a reconstruction, as the original would have deteriorated long ago. And they took up and these men would have taken cover in here with their cannon placed just on the outside, and then a short time later, the Seminoles came back in that direction and essentially finished off the men that were left. It was in this particular spot that the last of Dade's command fell. And by about 2 p.m. the battle was finished. And after the warriors had left, there were only maybe 2 or 3 survivors that the warriors missed. They managed to drag themselves back down south to Fort Brooke. However, unfortunately, only one of them survived that particular trek. And the news of what happened here would serve as a main catalyst for what would become the Second Seminole War, which would essentially become the longest and costliest of all the Indian wars. And it took the army about 2 months or so to be able to get people out this way to the battlefield. And the remains of those men were given a quick burial here. And the cannon was essentially pushed in, dumped in a lake off that direction by the Seminole warriors. And it wouldn't be till February 20th that the U.S. Army was able to get people out this way. And the remains of Dade's command were temporarily buried in a mass grave somewhere in this vicinity. although I'm not entirely sure where. And fished out the cannon, which the Seminoles had basically pushed into a small pond that was off over in that direction. And the barrel itself was used as a temporary marker for that grave. Then in about 1842, their remains were moved and reinterred over in St. Augustine, where they rest to this day. And I'm not exactly sure, I remember exactly where Dade himself and his officers were interred. They may have been buried with their men, or they could have been sent a little bit farther north. It's hard to imagine the chaos, terror, and just this absolute desperation that these men would have felt in those last few hours. And you kind of have to wonder just what their final thoughts might have been, other than trying to stay alive as long as possible. I guess the reality with conflict like this, there really are no good guys or bad guys, just ordinary people just fighting and oftentimes dying for their homes, their ways of life, and most importantly, each other and their families. This was certainly true for the Seminole warriors, and of course the men under Dade that died with him. And every year out here they do an annual reenactment event to commemorate the battle and remember all those who ultimately fought and died here on this battleground, just so we don't forget, and always keeping the memories and stories of what happened here alive to this day. And I want to thank you all so very much for watching. And I hope this will be the first of what I hope will be a series documenting and, I guess, showcasing the battlefields in the state of Florida, not just from the Seminole Wars, but from all the conflicts that were fought here before and since. And I really hope that you all will join me in that journey. Thanks for watching.